Bitcoin is close to becoming worthless.
Let's go. Now, what's the Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's like rat poison.
Yeah. Oh,
The greatest scam in history.
let's get it.
Bitcoin will go to fucking zero.
Yeah.
Welcome back to all you ungovernable misfits. I've got to do this in one take, so let's see how it goes. Today's episode is with Suspenser from the Bowl After Bowl podcast. I first listened to their show after it was suggested to me by Jordan, and I really enjoyed it. I love the fact that they really push the podcasting 2.0 stuff as hard as they do. They've integrated value for value into the show in a way I've not really seen before. They're suggesting to listeners to run their nodes and get involved, and it's just really cool to see. So I invited Suspenser on the show to get to know him a little bit, and I really enjoyed this episode. Before we jump into it, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who supports this show, whether that's with value for value, sending in boosts, recommending the show to friends and family, making GIFs and clips and everything else that people have been doing for us. We really do appreciate it, and it really does help us grow. I'm going to read some of the top boosts from our last Confab episode with Ben Gunn. John with 80,000 sats. Seeing Ben's build and thought process evolve over the last few years is inspiring. He's building a Meshtadel supernode. Yes, he is. I was speaking to him this morning about that. Also, after this episode with Suspenser, I invited him and his wife into the Meshtadel. I believe they've now joined, so if you're in there and you're listening to this, make sure to say hello. Solex with 69,421 sats. Nice. A 69, a fuck you, a like little sunset thing, and a clock. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate you very, very much, and the Meshtadel would not be here without you, mate. Rod Palmer from the Bitcoin Bugle. Ben Gunn shakes hands with Guy Swan. One letter N away from having a controversial last name. Okay. I don't really get that, mate. You can let me know. I'm not credentialed, so that's obviously gone over my head. 8myth Randir with 7,777 sats. Gun reminds me of Brad Pitt from Snatch. Can't understand a word of it. Pies with no message but 6,500 sats. Nathan Day with 5,000 sats. He's one of the weirdest individuals I've ever met in my life. Really hard work, really annoying, but also brilliant. Oh, don't you know it, mate. Great Grandman with 5,000 sats. Really enjoyed this. Gets me thinking about what I'll do once I reach escape velocity. Plenty to ponder. Would love to visit Ben one day. Well, you should. Get in touch. Right, that's the top boosts. Thank you to everyone for your support. We really appreciate it. Remember, if you enjoy what we do, share with friends and family. It helps this show grow. And before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors. I'll start with Foundation. In this episode, we talked a lot about nodes and Lightning and all the clever stuff that you can do with Bitcoin. But firstly, you have to be able to secure your sats properly. You have to understand how to do this. This is the basis for everything. This is the foundation of everything. The best hardware, in my opinion, by a long shot, is Foundation. I've been working with them for, I don't know, it must be 4 years now. It is what I suggest to my friends and family. The UX is so simple, and on top of that, it has an incredible team. Our good friend and Ungovernable Misfits crew member, Bitcoin Q&A, is always there, making sure he keeps people private and secure and makes it accessible. Everything that they do is open source. They have the Passport and the new Passport Prime coming. If you haven't seen the Passport Prime, I suggest you go back and have a listen to the episode I did with Q and Zach. They're doing some incredible things, and if you haven't already checked them out, go to foundation.com and use the code Ungovernable for a discount. You can also click on the link in the show notes that will take you to our own lovely Ungovernable Misfits page that Mr. Crown has designed, which is on their website. You will get a discount, we will get a little kickback and a thank you, and it all helps this show grow. I'd also like to thank Cake Wallet. Cake Wallet are making it incredibly easy for anyone who actually uses Bitcoin and Monero. They make it easy to connect your own node for both. They make it easy to spend both. You can do gift cards and cake pay. You can pay for your groceries and fuel and all the things that you need if you are actually living on Bitcoin and Monero. They also have some very clever privacy features. And again, we have an ungovernable crew member working very, very hard to make sure that all the users are safe and private. Our very own Seth for Privacy, who runs the Monero Monthly show with me, he's always working on improving Cake Wallet, adding privacy features, making sure that people are secure. I think just this week, actually, they've just done an update so that people can now use a passphrase on their Monero seed. There's always an update. There's always something new. We cover this in the Monero Monthly as much as we can. But if you haven't used Cake Wallet before, I suggest you check it out. They've got over 500,000 users already. It's very simple to use. It's got a clean user interface and an incredible team behind it. Go to cakewallet.com and download it today on Mac, Linux, Windows, iPhone, or Android. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out and ask me. If they're very, very technical, then send us a boost and we'll cover it on the Monero Monthly show. Okay, let's get into the show. Here he is.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly. Simple as always with all this technical stuff.
Right.
Like turning on a computer and a mic. That's as technical as it gets.
It's a one-click install, my man.
I have a special way with product testing and fucking everything up. It's some sort of special skill. I should actually be paid for it. People should send their product last thing when it's just ready to go out and just say, can you break it? And I'll say, yes, I can.
Absolutely. Challenge accepted.
Well, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks so much, man.
Long time coming.
Totally, yeah. We've been planning this for a few months now.
Yeah. In between, you've had a baby. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's pretty awesome. Is that baby number 2?
Baby number 5.
Oh my God, baby number 5.
El Cinco.
You're a machine.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks very much. It's that proof of work. TikTok next baby.
Strong families.
Yeah.
I was listening on the way back from the gym/work today. Heard you guys chatting about the show and got me excited again. I was like, fuck yeah, I've got something to talk about today and get into all sorts of things with you. I've been jumping into your show a little bit more recently, but I do always feel like I'm a little bit lost because I have no bowl to join you with, and I feel I'd be more involved in the show if I had that.
Yeah. We always say clothing's optional, but pot is not. But that's just a matter of the haze in the air. It's not that you always have to bring your own bowl. It just kind of emanates.
I miss that.
Yeah.
I don't find it's something that I can do anymore. Just like can't function well enough. You've either got it or you've not, and clearly I've not got it. You can like record and do everything while high and function like that. I just like sit in the corner, just like get too much into my own thoughts and can't communicate properly.
We did a little compromise kind of earlier on in our second iteration of the show because we got some advice from Sir Bemrose, who runs the No Agenda stream over there. And he said, you guys really got to stop like just being stoned out for your show. It's impossible. We thought about it because every piece of advice we get, we consider, about it. We don't really bend over backwards for every single suggestion, but we always consider everything. And we thought, well, maybe a good compromise would be wait until about halfway through so we can get our set in, we can get this, important stuff in. We don't forget any pre-flight checklist. But then that kind of started the behind the curtain segment of the show where we go behind the curtain where all of the fun stuff is, and then we can get a little more relaxed. We kind of have a compromise now.
Yeah, it seems like your show kind of spins off to other shows and has all these different sections and music, and it's very layered.
Yes.
It's certainly not like your normal, certainly in the Bitcoin world, like, hey man, tell me about your Bitcoin story. Oh, I bought in 2017, man. It's like so fucking boring. It's like the same
Right.
shit like every single time.
Yeah.
Whereas like, yeah, you guys have really got like some music in there and people doing the jingles, and it's fun.
Yeah, thank you. We
It's different.
try to do a little variety show, and we've kind of been open to having that evolve naturally. So a lot of the segments like the Metal Moment that Rev Cybertrucker does, he just sent us one of those one day a few years ago and was like, hey, if you find this cool, you can play it on the show. And that became like a regular segment. And that's kind of how it all came about. The Bitcoin stuff too, we put it on this segment we call On-Chain, Off-Chain, Cocaine Shitstain. And that was just a non sequitur that I posted one day, kind of describing the word salad you have to use when you're talking about node running and using lightning and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
but our listeners really liked us talking about it, even though they didn't understand much of it. That was the feedback we got. They were like, it's sometimes hard to follow with the terminology, but we still like you talking about it because we feel like we're kind of just absorbing it somehow, maybe subconsciously or something. So that's kind of how that evolved too. We just are like, we got to talk about it every week and just make it a normal thing.
Yeah, all the Bitcoin knowledge and word salad you're talking about, it's like it just percolates through. If you just spend enough time lurking around in the Bitcoin circles, you start to pick up on the lingo and bits and pieces. But then also I find there's like a point where you got what you want from Bitcoin and you know how to use it in the way you want to use it. And then the interest in like learning every single potential new thing that might or might not happen and everything else. Certainly for me, I'm like, if I'm honest, I just don't care. I use like I use the shit that works and like I like it, and then do I really need to know about like this new layer 2 that may or may not happen? If so, it's just like not really.
Sure.
I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with kids and stuff, you're like, fucking hell, I've got other stuff more important.
It'll come to
than
you
this.
when it's supposed to, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Our philosophy is like getting in and building your own and having your own node is sort of our blanket step one suggestion, which most people think that's too radical, that's too deep. Nobody's going to want to do that. A lot of people, I had a lot of pushback on that. Yeah, absolutely. People want to have an easy little setup. People want to have a Albi or Fountain wallet, and that's it. Which it's fine to get started, but our philosophy is for a long-term solution. If you think you're going to be in this game, for more than a month to try it out, then building a Lightning node, not only does that give you full autonomy and control over receiving and sending your payments, which is pretty crucial in our world, but it also forces you to learn the bare minimum, what's necessary, because the payments will stop and then you'll start getting emails from people saying, hey, I tried to send you money and I couldn't. So that's sort of what we encourage every week is get in the car and drive, we call it, build a node, and then you'll be learning the things you need to learn, and you won't have to worry when other companies change directions on you.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And you learn a lot along the way. People, I think, just maybe it's like it just sounds hard. Oh, you got to run a node. Like it kind of sounds, I remember like when I was running my first node, being a little bit intimidated, and I wasn't really into computers and like techie particularly. And it just sounded really technical, but actually it's pretty easy now. Like it's really not the most challenging thing. It's just like if you can be bothered to dedicate an evening to it, especially with things like Start9 and like these simple like plug and play ones and stuff, it's pretty easy.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what's nice too is usually if you have anybody even encouraging you to build a node, then that is a result of being plugged into some sort of community that has the knowledge to help you too. So whether you're going to a Bitcoin meetup or whether you're in orbit of some kind of podcast that is encouraging this kind of stuff, you've got people in a chat room. You've got people via an email who you can ask questions to, reach out and kind of troubleshoot with. So, yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, we started over 4 years ago doing this, and the ease of which everything works now is tremendous compared to back then.
Yeah, especially with Lightning, because that was really early days with Lightning.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I remember pulling my fucking hair out in the beginning. People are like, oh yeah, run a Ronin dojo and just jump into the command line and just do this. I'm like, whoa. No, this is like, spent days and days and then like troubleshooting and then having problems. And then someone would be like, oh, well, obviously you're going to have a problem because you're on the wrong Linux distribution. And I'm like, oh, right, obviously, yeah. I mean, like,
hello.
Yeah, and now it's like, if you really want to, you pay a few $100s, they'll send you one, like you plug it in pretty much and it's like done. It's so simple, which is cool. Like it means that more of this podcasting 2.0 stuff and just like general value for value can start to grow, which is certainly something like we've seen. And you guys lean in even harder, much harder than we do with all the podcasting 2.0 stuff. Like I remember when Jordan first sent your pod over to me, because he's a big fan, like he listens to all your stuff.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan, the lovely Canadian.
Oh, he's not that lovely. He's just badgering me now. He's literally badgering me now, going, send me the Spencer recording. I'm like, mate, I haven't even fucking recorded. Like, I haven't even done it yet.
We're making it.
Come on. Just constantly poking me with a stick. Come on, mate.
Oh.
He's an awful bloke, but we love him anyway.
Of course.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, listen to these guys. They're like really leaning into the value for value stuff. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll check it out. And I was like, wow, this is like, you're almost like molding a show around the idea of value for value rather than trying to like fit it into, here's our show, or how can we fit in value for value? It's almost the other way around with you guys.
Totally. Yeah, we think it's a really important part of the whole, I mean, in our experience, it's an important part of the whole energy and the life flow is the value exchange. And we also, so that's why we thank people like up front in the show. And, after doing that for like 4 years now, we have only had 2 different times where people were like, can you do that like later in the show? I don't care about that. But what's nice about the variety show and having people who are interested in just different snippets of it is the Podcasting 2.0 chapters feature. So if it's published, we've got our chapters. And if you're in a modern podcast app, you can just skip to the parts that you like. So if you really hate that value for value stuff, you can just hit next chapter. But what's nice about it is that's where the community really lives. And so you get to like vicariously meet these bowlers out there, these fans of the show who are, sending in different, whether it's pieces of advice or news tidbits or inside jokes or whatever. There's a lot of kind of lifeblood of the show there. And so that's why we think it's really important. We're pushing it. We've been pushing it so hard.
The bowl after bowl guys are pushing the value for value so hard.
So hard.
It's fun. It's like, compare that to like reading a YouTube comment or something like that. It's like, okay, you've read that. You might respond something like generic because you might not have time. You're like, yeah, just the comment or whatever. But especially when there's 2 of you on the pod and you can back and forth about a comment, it's a lot more fun. And the ones that I do with John and the ones that I do with Q, I really enjoy and look forward to those because we do have a bit of banter and a bit of fun with the people who are sending in the boosts. And it does quite often turn into a large percentage of the show. And then like the question sections on the more technical stuff where I get smart people in to answer them. That's always good because it's like a much nicer format for someone to, rather than like, how do I do this? Oh, go onto the GitHub, work it out yourself, mate. It's like, well, no, come and ask us and we'll have a conversation about it. And that's a much nicer way to bring people in and sort of break down the barriers to like technical stuff. So I love all the value for value stuff. And we're just looking at sort of growing it out in any way we can. So we do our XMR chat as well. We do, obviously Fountain is kind of like the main one that we're using, but any different way. I noticed you guys do, I think you still do PayPal and people can send you stuff to a PO box. Is that right?
That's right.
Different options. Yeah.
We just finally got the PO box in play because there just used to be this big barrier, of like people have sent stuff to the house, but you've got to back channel and ask, and I've got to make sure you're not a Looney Tune and all that kind of stuff. And we figured, just, with a P.O. box, then we can put it on the site and say it and all that. And there's just less friction there.
You're going to get some weird stuff.
Yeah, we may get some weird stuff. I think the weirdest thing that we've got, let's see, the most recent thing was, of course, Bitpunk FM. He sends out these cassettes because he does his show on physical analog cassette tapes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Some good friends of ours just sent kind of a fairy mushroom wicker wreath here that they saw at a thrift store, and they were like, this reminded us of you guys. So, it could be just about anything.
That's quite a nice idea. I like that. It's difficult with like the privacy side with me and other people in Ungovernable Misfits. We're very much like privacy focused. So there's always this like you want to get close to the listeners, but you also can't give too much information away and things like that. So it's always a difficult one. It's like there's this constant push back and forth of like, you want to open up more because it's more fun and more engaging, but you also don't want to because there are some genuine fucking lunatics out there.
Oh, absolutely.
And then there's the real fucking lunatics, which is the government, who don't particularly like the sorts of things that we say. So there's always that, and you're just kind of like trying to find these workarounds. But the 2.0 stuff is a good one, and our little circular economies that we build is kind of another one. We can get things to people in roundabout ways, which is quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I started going to Bitcoin meetups here locally as a result of doing the show and making it podcasting 2.0 enabled, value for value and all that, and building a lightning node. And it was one of our bowlers one day who was like, yeah, I just did a Bitcoin meetup here and where I'm at in Southern California. And I was like, Bitcoin meetup. I wonder if we have one here locally. So that was why I even got more involved in the Bitcoin enthusiast community, whatever you want to call that. And it was funny because you hear a lot of these memes like circular economy and like the different things. Mass adoption is a big one, right?
Yeah.
And you think, well, people keep saying this shit, but what are they actually doing is just buying low and selling high. Like, why aren't you lighting up when I'm telling you about this show that I'm doing that actually has been building a circular economy? Why aren't you interested in the whole music angle? I've been talking music since pretty much since joining the local meetups, and people will still show up and be like, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to do Bitcoin music and get the artist paid. Like, dude, I've been talking about this for years. We're out here doing it. It's going. It's working.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's some of the most LARPy type people in the world are the Bitcoiners. Pains me to say it because it wasn't always like this, but it's a lot of that. It's like the buzzwords, like you say, oh yeah, circular economy, and like whenever anything's actually happening, they just can't actually be bothered.
Yes.
It's a weird thing. It's like, we try it with the Meshtadel, which is like a little group that we've got, like a little side group of Ungovernable Misfits, which is like loads of people who are like giving advice on permaculture stuff, or like where to get good quality fruit and veg and meat and things like that, or how to harden your security systems and make sure your house or your networks are secure, and just like a group of people where you can like trade advice and just like help each other out, which has been really good. And then from that, you've got these little like genuine circular economies where like one of our guys, Otis Bitmeyer, he roasts this coffee and then he sends it out to people for Bitcoin, and Carl, who does the same with lamb, and like, all coming to stay and learn about permaculture with him.
Hell yeah. That's fantastic. I have where could we find more info on the Meshtadel specific stuff?
I'll add you guys in. Awesome. It's just a Telegram group.
Got it.
So we got two. We got the Meshtadel, which is like more general, and then we've got the Pleb Miner Mafia, which is like anyone who's doing any type of mining, whether it's big or small, heating homes or like anything like that. That's our other one. But yeah, Meshtadel is it's really great. It started from one of our listeners and his son, just like wargaming what would happen if Bitcoin actually became larger and government started to attack it harder.
Sure.
they were just like wargaming this, and his son was like, you don't want to have citadels because they're easy to attack. You want to have a mesh network of people who can smuggle between them and help each other out and move things if they need to. And like you need this like anti-fragile group. And so I loved like hearing, I think he was like 6 at the time, this kid. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. So we were chatting to this kid, father and son wrote an article about it. I was like, this needs to be a thing. And he'd called it the Meshtadel, like citadel, a mesh of citadels.
That's sick. Yeah, we were having a guy on tomorrow night who's, sounds like he would fit right in there. He's a local permaculture lamb guy doing the same sort of proof of work type circular economy stuff. He wants to sell local produce for Bitcoin and also like labor for all kinds of stuff for Bitcoin, right? And it's funny, you talked about the privacy stuff earlier. He just asked me today, he's like, you mind if I wear a mask? Because he's coming in person to the studio. He'll be our first. We just redid the whole studio and did a big remodel and moved everything around. We put artificial grass on the floor so we can touch grass.
I heard you guys talking about that when you were like planning it.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really nice.
Yeah, it really has changed the feel and the vibe in here a lot. But yeah, I was like, man, whatever you need to do, if you want to wear a mask, that's totally fine with me.
It's tough, like, because if you go to a meetup with a mask, you almost draw more attention.
Right.
Because I've considered that sometimes. I don't really go to them anymore because what I found was I'd go to them and I wouldn't say like, oh, I am Max from Ungovernable Misfits. I would just keep a low profile. I'd chat to people or whatever, but I wouldn't say anything. But a couple of times, like people not being malicious, just like not thinking, would be like, oh yeah, this is Max from such and such. And I'm like, oh, fucking, like they're like doxing you. They're not trying to be a dick, but.
Of course, they're just, it's tough, right? Because we've got to, spread the word of our shows and get people who are interested, but we also don't want the wrong people in there. We talk about that a lot with the concept of passing the bull, right? Like, who are you going to spread this show to? And that's kind of the context we want to put it in, like, pass the bowl. Would you go up to the deli counter and hand somebody like a dirty bowl and be like, hey, hit this, man? It's more special than that. It's more, you're going to want to have to, take a thought before you just hand this show to anybody, because not everybody's going to love or appreciate that gesture.
It's very niche, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
That's why the sort of like marketing side, I don't really know how you market like these type of shows because they're so niche. I think it just naturally grows.
That's right. Yeah.
Someone really loves it. Like, like Jordan, he loved your show and he was like, oh yeah, you need to check it out. Like it's really, really good. And so then I check it out. I'm like, oh yeah, it's really good. And then people ask me, but it's just like, it obviously grows slower, but.
I know this is way out of left field, but has Jordan mentioned to you how he feels about this new Linkin Park product out here? This new band that Mike Shinoda is calling Linkin Park with new people in it?
I've asked him a couple of times.
Yeah?
I was like, oh, what do you think of this new Linkin Park thing? And I just got, fuck off. I was like, okay.
Good, okay. I thought so. I thought that would be it, but I just wanted to see if you may have heard. Here's a strike for you, Jordan.
You have the same feelings?
Yeah, it feels pretty phony.
I think it's really difficult to ever try and replace that, especially when someone's died.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's like a
remaining guy who's like, trust me, bro, I know what he would have wanted. And you're like, well, I don't know, man. Why don't you just call it a different thing?
I think that's probably better.
Even the Queen thing, they put with Adam Lambert on it, literally everything, right? So it's like, okay, and the guy's going for the original sound in a reasonable way. Same thing with the Journey. They found that Korean guy, I think, to do the old stuff. So I don't know. I think there's ways to do it that are respectful and kind of pass the muster. But then again, that's the free market, right? The fans will decide.
Exactly.
And sometimes you've got a product that's just lowest common denominator enough that you've got the numbers no matter what,
Yeah, people will still listen. But yeah, my assumption is from his response of fuck off was probably that he's not a fan.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I've asked him like twice as well and had the same response. So he'll listen to this and he might
sore
tell
subject.
us.
I'm sorry if it's a sore subject, Jordan.
I'm not. Fuck you.
I'm in solidarity with your response there. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, not to rabbit hole or anything, but
You're a musician as well, is that right?
yeah. Yeah. I primarily drum because that's the only thing I've been like formally trained on, but I mess
Cool.
around with vocals and drum machine beats and guitars and pianos and whatever's
And
around.
Dame DeLorean. How do I say it? Is it Dame DeLorean like the car or
Yeah.
DeLorean? Dame DeLorean. Is she
Dame
also
DeLorean, yeah.
into music? Like she
Yeah.
plays a instrument or sings?
She's a pianist and a classically trained vocalist, so she does that
Ooh,
singing and piano stuff.
awesome. I love the idea of that in a home. Like people who can sing and play musical instruments and stuff. That's cool.
Yes, I know. We need to get. We're trying to set the room up to be more accommodating to that kind of stuff, because just like everything else in life, it's like one of these nice things that you've got the equipment around to do, but like, do you make time for it? And do you, music especially is one of those things where you've got to do it regularly. It's not like riding a bike where you can just hop back on. It's like, I pick up the guitar. I picked up a guitar for the first time last week since this big remodel, so it's been months, and my fingers are soft again and on my calluses, and it's like, wow, I suck even more again. Great. Cool.
Yeah, I never got on with. I tried guitar for a while, and like I've got fat, chubby, like clumsy hands that just ended up. They just felt like fucked, like awkward trying to do everything, like as if I was already arthritic at like 11 or whatever I was trying to do, and I was just like, this is just not for me. I feel like the same with pianists. Like you have to have a certain type of hand, almost like a long-fingered, like kind of vibe. Maybe that's
Yeah,
not true.
I feel like the physical part of it, you'd know pretty quickly if it's for you or not.
My missus is very musically gifted, but me, not a single bone in my body has any any ability.
I wish I had some more time to dedicate to it for sure.
It's such a cool thing to be able to do. I love like if you go somewhere and there's a piano or a guitar and someone can just like jump on and play. It's just such a cool thing.
Totally.
Not if they're shit though. Like if someone picks up a guitar and just like does something, like really like basic stuff, you're like, just put it down, mate. Just
right.
Let's not pretend.
Yeah. Yeah. If you take that risk, you got to deliver.
It's not something you can do lightly, or like a piano in an airport or something like that. Don't be going up and doing chopsticks on it. You got to be something special if you're going to do that, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of curious about. I was looking over the feed of Ungovernable Misfits while I was, listening to a few shows that have been published recently. And you've kind of got the similar vibe of a lot of variety, but it's in variety of the type of shows that come out. You've got your PMM, which I guess is the newer, the Pleb Minor Mafia you just mentioned. You've got these confabs like what we're doing. You've got the news updates. How did that all kind of come about, and what all shows are in the feed, I guess, or what's the Ungovernable Misfits umbrella?
You basically named all of them there, with the exception of we've also got Monero Monthly with Seth for Privacy.
Oh, okay.
Which is the only other additional show. What kind of happened was like I did for ages like the Bitcoin podcast thing. Like I'd get guests on, we talk about Bitcoin. They'd either be a developer and I'd be talking about a specific thing or whatever, like different people in the Bitcoin world. And I just started to be like, there's 100 other shows doing the same circuit of like the same people who say the same things, and like it almost like it's almost interchangeable. I started just to be like, I'm a bit bored of this now, because I only started the podcast because I was really into the Bitcoin stuff and there was not a single person on the planet who would speak to me about it. Like I kept trying and like badgering people in my like normal life, and everyone just was like, just fuck off, I don't care. Like I started to feel like I just need to have these conversations, otherwise I'm gonna drive everyone away, because I'm actually just almost like, I don't know, like a needy ex, or like a, I don't know, something like that, like where you're like really desperate, and that was like how I was feeling about wanting to talk about this. And so that's why I started the pod, was like, oh, well, I'll speak to people who know about this stuff and then I'll learn about it. And also because I'd sold everything that I owned to buy this thing,
Right.
like everything. And so then I was like, I hope I'm not wrong. I hope I
Sure.
haven't like thrown my whole life away. I wanted to be able to like feel that I wasn't. So that's why those conversations started. And then it started just to get a bit dull. I was like, I'm pretty confident I'm right in the financial stuff at this point. I'm doing the same talking points with the same people over and over again, and like that's dull. I started with Bitcoin Q&A. I was like, can we just do some more technical stuff on like a monthly show basis for people who don't want to fully immerse themselves into like hundreds of hours of pods and stuff every week? Instead of doing that, like they can just tune into our show once a month and be like, oh, okay, these are the news and update bits about Bitcoin. This is the technical stuff and the privacy stuff. They'll break down certain things. And that's kind of how that show started. I realized like I really liked doing that because Q&A became more and more of a close friend. I always look forward to having those conversations every month. It was different to the standard format. And then kind of the same thing happened with John. Again, just did like a pod with him, really liked him. I was like, good guy to chat to and knew a lot about mining. And even though he's like really fucking old, like he's so much older than me that you'd think that you couldn't possibly be friends. Almost like I could be his grandchild, like he's a geriatric fuck. That kind of like, you question how he can even speak.
Yeah.
For some reason that worked. We started doing some shows together. Oh, actually, giving my life story here, but what actually happened was after I'd spoken to John, him and his wife were supposed to do a mining conference. They both put loads of work and time into it and trying to make it like for real people who wanted to run miners in their homes and businesses and stuff like that. And it turned into a complete shit show, money grab, wank fest, corporate bullshit thing, which is not what they signed up for. John and his missus were like, we're really pissed off. Like, it's such a shame because we've put so much time into this and we found so many amazing people who are willing to share their information. And now it's like going down the shitter because we told them to fuck off.
Right.
And I was like, just do it on my show. I'll host it.
There you go.
Yeah, so we did a show or two every day for a month. I was absolutely exhausted. I got so sick after it. It was absolute carnage, just people coming on. We're talking about all the mining stuff. We did a whole month of mining. People were like, oh, we want more content and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, okay, we're going to do a monthly show. So that's actually how that started with him. So yeah, I don't know. I think the shows are more fun. It's nice having a co-host.
Yeah, definitely. I've always thought about doing some kind of format where I'm just like giving my piece on something, but like I can't really, I don't know. I've not even, I think the very first like 2 or 3 episodes of Bull After Bull way back in 2014 when we kind of started the first iteration of it, I think I had some of those, but once you have it conversational and you're recording conversationally, it's like I can't even imagine just sitting on my ass by myself having to, come up with stuff that anyone wants to listen to,
It's not as fun for listeners. It's not as fun to record.
Yeah.
It's more dynamic. So that's kind of how it developed. People responded well to the different shows. And my idea with Ungovernable Misfits was, look, I want someone to be able to know very little or nothing about Bitcoin and come in and rather than be shilled all the custodial Lightning solutions and the bullshit products and the DeFi and the lending and the bullshit from all these bigger podcasts and get the wrong idea about Bitcoin and be like, oh yeah, I'll just hold it for generational wealth and like my ancestors are going to be like lords and all this like bullshit.
Sure.
I was like, I just want them to like come in and be like, no, this is money for people who don't want to be controlled by governments.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't want to trust all their hard work and what is supposed to go to their families with these thieving, disgusting bastards. You need to learn how to use the tools correctly. You can't just buy it and leave it on Coinbase or whatever you're doing.
Totally.
Like if they can come in and listen to one show, they might listen to another. And my hope is that they're well-rounded enough that they get a relatively good picture of what my view of Bitcoin and like privacy world is. And then I throw in these type of shows as well, which are the Confabs, which is just like me wanting to have conversations with other people in the space. It doesn't necessarily have to be like I don't know, like a technical thing like a lot of the
Sure.
other shows are. It's more just like a conversation, a confab. It tends to be generally people who are like more aligned. I'm not into getting people on who are like the complete opposite of me and trying to like have a fucking battle with them. Like, no, my way is
Yeah.
the way. Like,
Sure.
I've got no interest in that.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's a lot like our interview formats are bowls with buds. So like this guy coming tomorrow, he's going to be on a bowls with buds episode, which are published on the same feed. So it's a little bit like the energy on your feed, except for just those are the only two formats we have. We have every single Tuesday night we do a bowl after bowl, and then whenever we can get a bud into the bowl, we do the bowls with buds. At most, that's a weekly thing. Even that little stuff, my audience is a little bit probably, how do I put it nicely? They're easier to confuse. And so, especially people who are just kind of one toe into our universe, it's caused a lot of confusion about what show we actually do or whatever it is. You know, it's like nobody knows.
Bowls and buds and bowls and bowls.
Bowls and buds and bowls and bowls. No one knows exactly
What
what's going
soundboard
on.
do you use?
I have it's a Native Instruments Machine Mark III.
Okay.
Which is really like a DJ, like composer type, you know.
Just Googling it now. Native Instruments.
Yeah, Native Instruments. I'm pretty sure they're a German company, I want to say. The Machine Mark III, MK3. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I've found that it's really nice for having a shitload of sounds on there that in my wacky, whatever you want to call it, brain, I know where they all are within a reasonable amount and can switch them really quick. And then I just keep adding on to them in a very disorganized manner.
It's nice having a soundboard. I've been looking at, John has one, I can't remember what it's called now. It's like cheap one off Amazon, and it like comes up on the screen, shows you like what's going to be said, so you can like label them and stuff.
Yep.
I was looking at one of those. I think it was like $100 or $150 or something. I was like, oh, quite
Nice.
like that, because I've got a couple in this Zencaster thing we're recording on, but it limits to me like, I don't know, I've got like 4 or 5. So I've got like
Sure.
this one.
Alert.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's an important one, though.
It's a nice one.
You've got to let people know when the shills come in. It's a public service.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's great.
So do you think you're going to grow more out then, show-wise, or are you quite happy with like the two?
There's always we're always looking to add value. And so that's really the core of how we decide what else to do, is add value to the show or to the larger communities that we play a part in. So the show kind of has grown piece by piece with that in mind. We've worked on some albums and some other songs with other artists as part of that general broad idea of adding value, doing things like this, you know, coming on other people's shows as guests and kind of forging relationships that way. Lorian it's been over a year now, but she started a music show with Mary Kate Ultra called Homegrown Hits. So that's another thing. I've been playing with an idea, and I haven't said this out loud, but it's getting kind of closer to maybe reality, to the point where I might feel more comfortable saying something. So this is the first time I've ever said it out loud.
Whisper it, and then it's only halfway.
What I'd like to do is do some kind of a live workout stream, because I need to work out. Right?
Oh, okay.
And I've needed to do that for a while. I've just been kind of tinkering with the technical side of what it looks like, how I publish it, you know?
That's an interesting one.
I want to do something simple because I need accountability, right? That's my biggest snag in any sort of improving myself or my routine. And when we made the album, Abel Kirby and I made Stay a While, we were doing this call together. We would like get on once a week and we'd have a call and we'd say, okay, well, these are the songs that I've progressed on, or I wrote a, percussion spot for this, or I've recorded this. And we'd just kind of talk in the background, and we weren't really that great at keeping the meetings always, right? It was easy to be like, well, I've got something going on, so can we push it to next week? And he came to me one day and he was like, hey, let's turn this into a podcast. Because it seems like every time I make podcast commitments, then I keep them. And I thought, oh yeah, that's brilliant. And then, other people can hear it and, and have some encouragement and feedback as well. And I don't know, you kind of put your best foot forward. You're on a little bit more of your best behavior than when it's just two guys being like, yeah, well, this is what I managed to get done. So I kind of, with that in mind, want to start a workout stream just to,
That could work. A lot of Bitcoin people are trying to be fit and healthy and like look after themselves, their families and stuff. It's something that I think a lot of people would probably want to get involved in, depending on what sort of thing it is.
Yeah.
I guess you're going to be limited by space to some extent.
Yeah, I just want to do it down here with the grassy basement and get a couple angles that are like decent and just, regular push-ups, crunches, sit-ups, and I have a kettlebell too, so some kettlebell swings. Nothing super crazy, just like a home gym 20,
TRX
30 minutes
is what you need.
Daily. TRX?
Those TRX things?
Is it like a total gym type thing or like the Bowflex?
Yeah, no, I'll send you a link. Okay. Hold on.
I gotta know this. I've also been kind of looking for different plans, different like workout planning stuff.
It's basically like bands. I think certain parts of the military use it because you can travel everywhere with them. You basically hook these cables wherever it is. Like you can either have them hooked to the back of a door or onto a wall, and it allows you to do hundreds of different exercises.
Okay. Kind of like resistance bands kind of thing. Oh, I see it. Okay, let me see.
2 long cords with handles either side, but they're like very strong, like seatbelt strong.
Gotcha.
And you can adjust them up and down to any height you want. So you could do like press ups, pull ups, like all these different things that you wouldn't be able to do in a smaller space otherwise.
Interesting.
And they're like, I don't know, 150 quid or something like that. And they'll last like forever.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they're pretty decent.
So that's the kind of thing I'm always thinking about, like what can we do to offer more value, like make the shows more valuable, make what we're saying more valuable. And that's a two-way street too, right? Like I want to bring more value to us as a result as well. So in our experience, you've got to put more in to get more out. And we're always, every day trying to think, how can we make that happen? How can I put more value in to this thing?
You can see it in the numbers and over time, and the community's growing. You guys do yours live, which I have to say I'm quite envious of.
Live is a lot of fun. Yeah, live is a whole extra level of that interaction and that real-time feedback where, we've got the chat room, we've got the voicemail line, we've got the live audio stream, and then we've also recently been doing a lot with video over the past year because last year, our good friend Booberry, who does Behind the Schemes with Lavish on Monday nights, he came down and helped us set up this boostable disco ball in the studio. So there's this big-ass disco ball on the ceiling. And when somebody sends in a boostagram, the thing lights up.
That's cool.
So that sort of live interaction and that programmable money idea being taken to, okay, well, we can actually make things happen. We can let the audience affect the show directly. Like you can turn lights on and off in my house with Bitcoin. It's that part really expands the whole idea of building a community and interacting directly with people, real-time feedback. That's been pretty awesome.
That is nice.
We just use Owncast, an Owncast server to do the video side of things. It's like just a self-install on a cloud server that we do. And then for the audio, for the longest, we've always done Icecast server. I use AzuraCast, which is kind of it gives you the server to be able to put the audio out as well as a Liquid Soap DJ that can play different things when you're not live. So we just play like old Bowls with Bud shows in rotation when we're not live. And if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, adding that to your setup, I'm happy to discuss with you or with your boy Jordan or whoever. If you ever have questions.
I love the idea. I'm just too much of a fucking control freak autist to let go my editing time, even though like it's the bane of my life. Like I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
I just can't break myself away from the control of it because when I'm crafting the shows, I feel like, oh, this is like a piece of art or like a part of me.
Sure.
And I was like, it sounds like really like a bit wanky, but it's kind of like the diary of myself.
Of course, yeah.
If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my kids can be like, what was Dad actually like? Be like, oh, he was an awful bloke. I've just listened to his shows. Like, he was a terrible guy.
Yeah.
But it matters to me if I've recorded for 3 hours with John, if I can cut that down to 2.5, 2
Sure.
hours 15, and it's punchier, and the quality of like the soundboard, because when he feeds the soundboard in, it sounds tinny and shitty. So I can go back and I can cut all of that out and replace it with the proper MP3s or WAVs so it sounds better.
Sure.
I can adjust the volume because sometimes it's too high and too low, and that's jarring and annoying. And so like I take a thing that I'm like, this is fine, like this would be a good live show, and turn it into what I feel, at least I feel, is like, okay, no, I'm really happy with this. I think this is great. I think people are going to enjoy it. If that takes me 12 hours to do, I do it.
Totally.
I just can't break myself free from that. It's almost like I've done it for so long. I know no other way.
There's something huge about that kind of, I don't even like to call it a rut. It's more of a groove, right? It's that, it's the groove of your workflow. And there's a lot of stuff of my workflow that I have been working on automating or thinking about automating. It's been on the to-do list for years. But I still just do it by hand. Like the RSS feed, I update by hand every show. And yeah, I mean, it also takes all types, you know, like if you know what you're good at and what you've been doing, you really don't want to deviate from that a lot. You can carve out a slightly different part of your groove, or you can change the course of where your groove's headed, but you can't really hop out of that groove because that's kind of starting from zero. And that's a nightmare. That's like, that can derail the whole thing in a certain sense.
Yeah.
So keeping your momentum, I think, is a good call. We do some post-production, but it's not really a ton. I do have like just a drag and drop solution to make the audio levels kind of match, you know, so like the quiet parts get brought up and the loud parts get pushed down a bit.
You just run it through a compressor or something.
Yeah, essentially. And then I do a little bit of shaving silence depending on how long it goes. Because again, you want to respect people's time. I think there's some hardcore bowlers who would be happy if the show went as long as Red Bar, like if they were 8, 9, 10, 11 hours. But I'm always like, you know, we got to like 3.5 hours is kind of pushing it. I'd like to average 3. I'd like to be maybe under 3 most times. But I also don't want that to be something that makes us hold back in any way, you know, or cut down content or like talk less about stuff that we care about. So it's just it's kind of a feel it out type of thing, you know, and we're keeping always, you know, an eye on the chat and an ear on anybody complaining, but not a lot of complaints. So
no, well, it sounds crisp what you guys are doing. It sounds good. I feel like also it's the type of show it just works with, like what you guys are doing works. I hope what we're doing works. It's just fucking long process. I need to find like some child labor or something to come in and do it and train them, but I've just not found the right editor. We've tried like I've lost you, motherfucker.
Oh,
you there?
I'm still here.
It's back.
Okay.
No, it's mine. It's this VPN. It just drops off all the time.
Oh,
I've got a weird setup here that's like a home, like a router level VPN, and then there's another VPN on each device, and blah blah blah. And it's like all good and private, but sometimes it's just a bit shit.
Sure, yeah. There's always trade-offs, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're right about all this Bitcoin and circular economy stuff, and it kind of like goes the way that I think you think, and I think it's going to go, do you have any concerns about what happens with the world? Especially with kids, you know, are you ever like thinking, this is cool what we're doing, but like, fuck, what's going to happen in the next decade or two?
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's a big unknown for really everybody, all levels of society, all industries and all sectors. You know, a lot of people are running around in circles with the AI race right now. And it's obviously captured a lot of attention and capital in recent years, but nobody really knows for sure what it's going to look like. I think everybody kind of understands that the institutions and the business as usual type thing is it's just flat out not sustainable, but we don't really know what the next step is because of that. Now, I think guys like you and I would agree that it just means slowly building out something that is more sustainable on a super local, super decentralized, that's an overused word that's been kind of watered down, but we got to build something that's ours that is sustainable. And I think that's part of what is cool about living on this circular economy and building smaller shows that are a smaller but more dedicated audience that actually cares what you have to say and is involved and has skin in your game. And these hyper local communities, which aren't necessarily always geographically local, but they're local to either an idea or a group. It could be geographically distributed because of the internet and because of connections, like us right now. But I think that that's the real key that everybody's going to have to figure out. It's no longer like, oh, I'm going to go to a college and then I'm going to get a job at one of 8 places that serves the sector that I'm trying to get into. It's more of how am I going to justify my spot in society? How am I going to provide value enough to sustain the value that I need to get out of it? I think it's going to be more merit-based and more of what you can do for other people directly, in a kind of a peer-to-peer type of thing. There's going to be much less that's just handed to you. There's going to be much less that's carved out and predetermined. Okay, you follow this step, this step, this step on your life path. There's going to be a lot more onus on the individual to kind of build their lives and make all that happen.
Yeah, producing actual value. I was speaking to John about this the other day. Like, so many people are in corporate-y type jobs and they literally produce no value, nothing of use.
Yeah.
They like have meetings and shuffle papers around and put things in diaries to check things that don't need to be checked and put extra systems in place that don't need to be there and do compliance and regulation and box ticking and bullshit. And you're like, what have you actually fucking done or built?
Right.
Like, if you actually ask them that, like, what have you actually done this year that's useful? A lot of people will really struggle to actually answer that.
Yeah. They'll run over to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to write them a report of what they've done this year. And spit it out and turn it in. You're like, oh, that's what I've done. And it's just a bunch of corporate word salad, which is it's been able to raise billions in venture capital over the past couple of decades, but it just doesn't seem like, that's going to continue. There's a lot of steam falling off of that. And you kind of see it here in the latest huge shifts, seismic shifts in the federal government here, where the federal workforce now, that's been like a telecommute, work from home, phone it in position for so long. And all of that's coming to an end. And all of these moves that the federal government's setting, the corporate world is going to adopt them in many cases. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but it does seem like just typing fluff onto a screen and hitting send is not going to be a career for much longer.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, it's interesting seeing, like, as an observer from the outside, like, the UK, utterly hopeless, like just literally run by demonic pedophiles.
It's a bit crazy, huh?
It's so fucked up.
It looks, every time I see the UK developments, and I mean, for quite a number of years now, but especially in the past 6 months, I didn't think the pills could get this black that I'm getting handed from the UK side of things. Like, whoa.
Oh, mate, it's proper bad. And, like, it's something I've sort of, like, known deep down. It's very bad for a long time.
Sure.
But it's only recently, even my missus, like, I'm like, I seriously want to leave this country. I don't want to live here anymore. And it's only recently she's like, yeah, it's fucked, isn't it? I'm like,
damn.
Yeah, it's proper fucked.
That's pretty wild.
And it's like, it's fucked. And you get charged the earth to live here. You fart or sneeze and you're going to be taxed. Like, everything is just tax. It's so heavy that you just can't move. Most of the people that I know from this country who are smart or have well-paid jobs or run their own businesses and are doing well either have left or are leaving.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's bad. So I hope for your sake that America, there's some positive changes because that old fuck who was in before seemed to be
It was a bit wild, and really none of us knew, if he was really pulling most of the reins or if people were just handing him documents to sign or if people were just sliding documents under his auto pen. Like, it was really kind of unclear, I guess you could say, for most of those 4 years, who was really driving.
It was like elderly abuse.
Yes. I think now there's not really much of a question who's driving. I think there's some mixed opinions about what that means or if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's an improvement. But I don't think there's any more doubts about who's steering the ship at this point. That guy Trumpy is pulling the levers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I do get a bit worried about the Bitcoin maxi types who are getting very overly excited about the government entering into the Bitcoin world.
Agree. It's a very strange thing to see these guys salivate about, isn't it?
It's antithetical to the whole movement. It's like, why are you in Bitcoin?
Yeah, they cheerlead this pro-Bitcoin legislation, and I'm like, the pro-Bitcoin legislation is Bitcoin software. It's all in the code, right? And that's really all you need. Like, who needs an extra law? The only law that I would really welcome is an unnecessary one that just says, okay, we shall make no law regarding this area, kind of like the Bill of Rights was originally set up to be, like, okay, so these are laws that say Congress can't make a law that gets in the way of speech, of right to bear arms, of practice of religion, of unreasonable search and seizure, that sort of thing for Bitcoin. Sure. Like, I wouldn't need it. It's astounding that you would need laws like that ever, but those would be like the ones where I get, okay, sure, that one is good to clap for. But everything else, like, everyone's like, whoa, we need regulation. I'm like, regulation? The miners and the nodes regulate the network. It's done. You don't need the Fed involved in that. You don't need the IMF involved in that. You don't need anything else. It's already put together.
It was like separating money from state was like when I first got involved. It was all about that, and it was all about get the government out of your money, and they have no power here, basically. Their system's so fucked and so shit and so corrupt that we've had to make a new one. We want to completely sidestep everything they're doing, going, fuck what you're doing. We'll build our own. This better. And now everyone's going, yeah, let's get the government back into our money. That's a great idea. And obviously it's obvious why. It's like it comes completely down to just number go up.
Right, exactly. They want the government coming in being their sweet, easy ticket to mass adoption. And now I have 5 million followers, and now I'm, making gajillions of dollars. They'll still say I'm making dollars every day. Come on.
Never gonna happen.
Come on. It's not what the government does.
No.
At least not for just regular retards like us, right? The government does that for their friends. Their nasty, nasty friends.
Yeah, they are very nasty friends. It's just interesting to see it play out. There's nothing that anyone can do other than on our shows, we obviously push back against it, call everyone retards, go to war with them, try and affect the culture in a certain way.
Send mean Noster notes out.
Yeah, just like try and abuse the cunty little weasels that go around the world with their wallet of Satoshi in hand and like think they're changing the world and getting their like influencer bags pumped. Like those type of pricks, they need a little bit of a slap occasionally, just a little bit of a like, this is not what we're here for. It might be what you're here for, but this is not what it was designed for.
Yes.
It feels like it's just going to happen. There's almost nothing that can be done about it. All you can do is like sharpen your tools to keep yourself secure because the government is coming in more and more. Yeah, just like trying to keep yourself separated for if it all goes bad.
Totally. Well, I think that like the big ice island that we floated on has been splintering slowly over time. Like if you go back to the 40s and 50s and 60s here in the States, it's like 3 networks. There's like 3 TV networks. And then cable comes along. Now you've got, MTV. MTV used to be like a radical grassroots, like anti-establishment thing when it was first put on. And now it's kind of part of this big establishment. With the podcasting thing, you've got more splinterage, and I think people get lost in the biggest islands, right? Like Joe Rogan is seen as this anti-establishment outsider guy, but people always forget he's like a Hollywood-made man, Like before he started his own little podcast, he had Hollywood Fuck You Money from News Radio and from Fear Factor, So it's like, these guys aren't really the organic guys that they've got this reputation, but it's not really been earned. And like, you're not going to get $4 million deal from XYZ platform because it's not making money. Like they couldn't make money off Joe. They just gave him more than I'm sure, than they've pulled in from that. Not to mention the sponsorship nightmare and how that's just completely chilling for your format and for who you can have on and what you can say to them and shit like that.
I think it depends how you do it. I think we're pretty lucky in the sense we've been pretty careful about who we take on as sponsors, but I can say anything I want.
Right.
Foundation aren't going to call me up and be like, Max, you called someone a cunt? I'm like, yeah, I'll call you one as well. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
And I think that's crucial too, is the relationships you build. You've got to know, each party has to know who they're kind of coming on board with, which is great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Bitcoin space influencers who had to say, oh, sorry, because, my name was a promo code for FTX for a while and
yeah.
And that kind of shit. So
Compass mining and all the scammy bullshit.
Rocket ship.
Yeah, what one was that one? Fucking Pomp, wasn't it?
It was Pomp saying it about 3 Arrows, I think, Capital. 3 Arrows Capital. Anybody remember a little company called 3 Arrows?
Oh, yeah, that was... Oh, yeah, what was it called? The specific thing. It was BlockFi.
Yeah, BlockFi.
That was it. Oh, my God. That was so funny. I watched that so many times because he looks like he's coked off his face.
Oh, for sure, man.
He's absolutely
riding
he's
that
been
rocket
skiing.
Ship.
And then his missus is there, like next to him, just looking like, what's going on here? Like, it's such an uncomfortable scene.
It's so funny, dude. It really says a lot in just a 3-second little thing you can watch. It says so much.
Yeah, he was one of the first people I was listening to, actually. You find your way into these different, whether it's music or Bitcoin or whatever it is, like you sort of slowly find your way down to the more and more niche stuff generally.
Mm-hmm.
First coming in, he was one of the first people I listened to. He had the big guests on and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't take too long to be like, oh, this guy's really fake.
Yeah.
like this guy is incredibly fake. And who's the other one? Ran Newman or whatever his name was. There's a few different crypto guys.
Baby blue Lambo kind of guys.
Yes. Yeah, there was one guy I used to watch and he used to record. He actually wasn't too bad, the guy, to be fair, but he used to record and then he was recording in his garage and he had his new white Lamborghini behind him. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a flex.
Yeah. That's what we call a red flag, my man.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad, that guy. Like, he was one of the better ones, but yeah, still...
Yeah, it's funny. And sometimes it's even funnier, the guys who are like always trying to be in that sphere and they just are too dumb to pull it off. Like Dave Portney, I think, is a perfect example of that. His latest post I saw on Twitter the other day was like, yeah, I'm really looking into trying to figure out like if I can do a meme coin, but like not rip a bunch of people off and still make a shitload of money. I'm like, no, dumbass, that's impossible. Do you know where the shitload of money comes from? When you make a meme coin, do you know where the shitload of money comes from?
Do you think he's actually that dumb, or do you reckon he just plays on it? Because he can't be a complete idiot, can he?
It's so hard to tell, man. If he's... I think for sure he's dumb. Now, how dumb is he? He might lean into it a little bit, or he might not give a fuck too much about trying to... But I think for sure he's dumb if he's being honest about his Bitcoin positions.
If he's being honest, I just wonder like how much of the stuff is content and just like it just pulls more eyes.
It's possible, yeah. People want to see a guy lose his ass,
If you go on Bitcoin Twitter and you say something like dumb or like bad about Bitcoin, you'll get thousands of people just be like, no, Bitcoin's the way. No, you don't understand. No, listen, man, you just don't get it. And like, so your engagement goes up.
Chum in the water.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of fucked too about the traditional means of the attention economy versus this value for value situation. Like in the attention economy in YouTube and Twitter land, like it doesn't matter if people hate me. I make money off of them too. I make money off people that hate me, the people that like me, or the people that are just like, I can't believe this. This is dumb. I don't, they're like taking time to write out a comment about how like this isn't worth their time. I'm like, that's interesting. This isn't worth the time that you're giving it right now. Is that right? It's so not worth your time that you're wasting my time with it now because I saw this shit that you wrote.
It's funny. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's a much slower burn to do the value for value thing, but it's a nicer experience.
Yeah. Well, the incentives are pure, Like my only incentive is to deliver value. And if I don't do that as well, I don't get as much value out of it. Like if I make a bunch of people hate me, nothing good happens.
No.
If Mr. Beast goes out there and makes a bunch of people hate him, then all of a sudden, revenue jumps 20%. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, some of these guys, like their reach and their influence on culture is pretty astounding. Like it's a Joe Rogan, that is not that I dislike him. I listen to his show sometimes, and like I don't have a issue. Like sometimes they're quite good. I like I used to drive a lot, like a lot, a lot, and so I'd run out of podcasts and things, and I'd be like, do you know what? I'm going to go down a rabbit hole, and so I would like go and listen to every UFO/alien/ like anything in that sort of like grouping. And I'd like for 2 weeks just be like listening to 8 hours a day of like all this stuff. And like Joe Rogan's quite good to find people to listen to and follow and like go from there, like it's because like he gets all the best guests. And also like he asks dumb questions that I'd like want to know, where like some of the other podcasters like wouldn't necessarily ask those questions, or like they want to look smart kind of stuff, where whether he like really wants to ask that or he plays along with it just to make it more entertaining, I don't know. But sometimes that's quite good. But yeah, the reach that these people have, just like him having Trump on, like how much of a difference did that make for Trump?
Right. Yeah. I think
probably
a pretty huge one. Yeah. Especially in that younger demo. Well, people just want to, in general, and I think it's more true the younger of generation you reach into, but people in general just want to have the honest truth, or like the candid person talk about where they're actually at. They can kind of see through the plastic non-response, and it's frustrating, right? We would rather have an honest response that we disagree with than some kind of a blanket non-response that no one can get upset with. People would rather just be told what's up. And now with like the ease of access of information for so long because of the internet, people are just not really sticking around for the scripted TV presentation of things.
Yeah, it's so gross, like unbearable to watch. And the same with politicians and stuff like that. Like a question is asked, a completely random set of words are strung together that mean nothing, that don't answer any of those things. They're really good at it. It's an incredible skill that they've learned to like say a lot and actually say nothing at the same time.
Yeah. As soon as you hear one of them robots say, "Let me be clear," you can just turn it off, because everything about the rest of the thing that comes out of their mouth will offer no clarity, no substance, no point of action, no accountability, nothing. Nothing comes after "let me be clear."
Yeah, it's so frustrating. So yeah, like you say, even if someone like a politician goes up and goes, "We're gonna fuck you," right? Your life's gonna be worse, and this is why. I'm gonna steal your money and I'll give it to my friends and go in their back pocket, and I'll be spending a lot of it on hookers and cocaine, and that's basically what we do. And at least if they said it, you'd be like, at least I respect that you've said it to my face. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least you've said it, rather than all the bullshit about saving the fucking spotted owl and whatever else they say they're going to do. It's just like, come on.
This like LA fire response situation is quite crazy, because you've got the mayor of LA over there sitting down at a card table, like meeting, and there's Trumpy right to the side of her, like shoulder to shoulder. And she's like just scrambling to get the words out that people want to hear. And so she's like, well, everybody's been told this. You can go back and start building an 18 months thing that they're very pissed about. She's like, no, it's going to be faster and we're going to cut red tape. And then they're pressing her harder for specifics. And she's like, well, we're going to get people back really soon. And then really soon becomes like, we think within a week. And then she even agrees to, I think tonight. Well, yeah, they can do that too. And then, the days and week rolls by and there's still people that are not allowed back on their own block in Pacific Palisades. And it's just like these people will say whatever to the cameras that needs to be said. It's almost like they've been coached and trained, like, just say whatever and then we'll do something else over here in the actual arena. It's nuts. Like, it's not something I think that can really last. That's something that's you've been able to get away with for so long in politics. I think the time's running out on a lot of that.
It's easier, isn't it? It's like I'm quite direct in personal life stuff. So like, for example, if someone's like, hey, yeah, we should really meet up next weekend, and like I've got this drinks thing, and yeah, like come along, bring your missus, and I'll be like, no.
Yeah.
But like, no, I'm spending time with my kids, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I find is like a lot of people, and I do it like directly because I'm like, I don't want to waste everyone's fucking time. Because otherwise it's like, we'll probably maybe sort of think about and stuff, and we might, I'll message you and things, and then they message you. Do you still want to do the thing? Let me just check with that. And you've got this whole like dance around.
Go look at my calendar.
Yeah, look at my calendar, and it's not synced with my missus' calendar, and we've got these other orbiting problems that may or may not collide with that time. And instead, you can just go, no, I actually don't want to do that.
It's like, no, I'd rather just sit on my ass in my house, actually. On that night in question that you mentioned, I'd rather just kind of lay back.
Yeah.
And then not do anything. Isn't that
That sounds so nice.
Always try to get back to?
Yeah. I would love that. I have this dream, which is like, it's so sad. Maybe it's like a dad dream. But just like going alone somewhere, like in a tent or something, with just a little campfire, nowhere where there's no noise at all, for like a whole afternoon and a night, and then the following morning, maybe smoke a joint, maybe have a drink, and nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's like such a loserish, like if I just told myself that like 15 years ago, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, mate?
That doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah, like I can't think of anything better than just that peace at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So nice.
Yeah, the old Taoist center to get back to.
It's because everything's so busy, isn't it? Like if you got day jobs and podcasts and interests and kids and like all these commitments and stuff, and like it's very difficult to like saying about getting into a rut with the way you do a certain thing.
Yep.
That's where like I used to be able to break out of that, because my thing I had a really stressful job that was very, very busy, and then I'd get home, I'd smoke a joint, and I'd paint for an evening. I'd like just create for an evening, and that would reset my mind. And often the next morning I'd wake up and be like, I want to change this, I want to do that, and it'd be like a reset. I feel like people need, whether it's creativity or just a bit of peace and silence or something like that, it's like you need that little bit of time for your brain to like, I don't know, like reboot or like change its ways. Otherwise you end up in a rut and you're like, oh my God, I'm 60. Like I'm in the same job. I'm like doing the same stuff. I'm not in the country I want to be in. I don't really even like my friends. What am I doing? Like you get that sort of like meltdown.
Yeah. I like a walk for that kind of thing too. Just even a simple, like it literally doesn't even have to be a long walk in a nice place. You can walk in a big circle in your backyard around a chain fence if you want. Like, but just moving your feet one in front of the other and kind of letting your thoughts come and go as they will without really kind of white knuckle gripping anything. That's sort of nice to get into that physical action where you know what you're doing physically, but then your mind is allowed to kind of come and go. I don't know. I think smoking is even a miniature version of that.
Yeah, there's something that's like, it's almost like a ritual of like rolling up and I don't know. I always used to enjoy just like I'd come home and then be like, that shit because I hated my job
Yep.
so much. I
Yep.
fucking hated it. I hated every single person that I worked with, hated them. Literally, if someone was like, oh yeah, Amy got hit by a bus, I'd be like, good.
Awesome. Congrats for shedding that, by the way. Isn't that nice?
It's so much nicer. Now everyone I work with, like, I sort of love 95% and like
Yeah.
I also kind of hate them 5%, like
Sure.
because it's fun, like Jordan and John. Just
Of
you've got to have
course.
a little
You've
bit of
gotta-
hatred.
You've got to have some kind of friction, or I mean, it's we live in a war universe, man. That's just how it is here. You know, at least this iteration, this existence, it's a war universe. So you've got to be armed properly for that kind of thing. You know, otherwise someone else is going to come and take you over, and you know you're just conscripted and doing what they're telling you to do.
Yeah, I certainly did that for a long time.
Yeah.
In stuff I didn't want to do, just like chasing money. Come on, you're going to have a better
Sure.
life. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's different once you're doing stuff that you enjoy, isn't it? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
the creation process and like doing something you care about, like doing your podcast and you guys like building it and things like putting the grass down, stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like being able to turn that light on and off and like stuff like that. Just it makes you feel good because it's something that you care about. That's so much of a richer life, even if it's not, even if you can financially do stuff that's better. It's like, yeah, but you're going to be miserable.
Totally.
You put out value, you get the value back in
That's
terms of
right.
sats, but you also get it back in terms of like, oh, I'm doing something that I actually like think is cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun.
It's cool. I look at it and I go, wow, that's actually even more badass than I had imagined. You know, like that's what we try to emphasize too on the show when we do the value for value segment. Like the money part of it, it's obviously crucial. It's like a lifeblood thing, and I think everybody kind of understands that. But a lot of people get too wrapped up into it, you know? And so we were like, hey, we talk about it every week, the value for value. We start with the money because it is important. It's not like we want to diminish that in any way. But there are so many other facets of value that are just not able to be added to an Excel spreadsheet, you know, like what you're talking about. Just looking at the grass right now in front of me and being pleased with how it looks and how it feels on my feet. Like how do I put a number on that? Do I put a number on that for currently right now in this moment? Do I put a number of that over time in the 3 months that it's been down? Like what's the number? Well, that's impossible, right? But it's valuable. And once you start to lean into it, you can kind of see all this value get added to your life. If you're not having fun, what's the value in that? If you're not doing what you want to do or what you feel is like part of your purpose here as a human being, then like where's the value? It's just like a road to misery otherwise.
Yeah, just accumulate stuff to fill a void.
Yeah, or I want to be like copying these other cheese balls, right? Like,
there's so much of it. Like there's
a lot.
I don't know whether it's like just the space that we're in. Like if you go into any podcasting group in any sort of on any sort of subject, you're gonna have the same sort of thing. But it definitely feels like that. It definitely feels like there's loads of spooks lurking around.
Oh yeah.
There's so many people where I'm just like, oh my God, like for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone hates me for it, but I think Sailor's one.
Yeah, I've never understood the sailor fellatio movement, to be honest.
It's weird. It's like a culty, I guess, because that he's pumping the bags, and I'll give him this. He's a really good salesman.
Yeah, and he definitely figured it out, you know, in terms of how to endlessly print Bitcoin out of thin air with his own company. Like that's pretty cool for him. But like, what how does that help the rest of us? Like the bags being pumped, the number's going to go up regardless, right? That's just how it's set up. But the bags being pumped, if it's any sort of artificial pump or bubble, the only way that benefits you is if you are day trading, selling all the time, which isn't my move. It isn't my move. I'm just using this as a better money. Full stop. So it's not, for me, it's not an investment. It's not a trade strategy. It's not a fucking NFT collection. It's not, it's just a better money. And so first, in order to understand that, you got to learn what the hell money's function even is. And then you've got to use money. So like the guys who are never spenders, It's like, well, that's not how money works.
Mm-mm.
The guys who are buy low, sell high guys, like that's not really the function of money either. And I think it misses the point. A lot of people are, I don't know. I feel real bad for the newbies in the sense, not that everything's too hard, because it's easier than it's ever fucking been.
Oh, yeah.
Where I feel bad is there's just way more noise and traps. Like when I first actually used Bitcoin, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't really know that it was important. I didn't even know what the blockchain was or how blocks were solved or any of that. But what I was doing was there were so few things going on that there wasn't a lot of different traps and scams. Back then, it was like, as long as you don't just have a bunch of Bitcoin on Mt. Gox that you're trading, then, you're probably going to have a fine time.
Yeah, being told not to ever spend and always to hold, and you're going to regret it otherwise, and all this kind of stuff is, I don't know. But, that's the thing. I think this value for value stuff is like a good way that teaches people that's not necessary. Like you can actually use this thing, and these little circular economies do start to, even if it's small, like Barn Miner, one of our guys, he makes beef jerky. People buy it with sats and he sends out the beef jerky and it's really good. And they might only start with something small like that. And then they start to use it more and more because it's kind of addictive once you start to use it. Like I find, even if I have pounds, I'll quite often do like gift cards and stuff like that and use it because I'm just like, it's kind of like using it. It's just kind of cool. It's kind of fun.
Well, it's kind of an accounting trick too, right? Like if you're going to spend something, you can still spend your dollars or your pounds. Like you can spend that and get Bitcoin and then spend some of the Bitcoin. But if your number's higher at the end of the week on the Sats account, then you're still accumulating and you've got to spend. If I spend $1, I've also spent my opportunity cost of buying $1 worth of Bitcoin. So it's just accounting that people can't wrap their heads around. Like you're spending it. You could be spending it in any form.
As time goes on, governments are going to get tougher and tougher and come after people more and more. And so a lot of what I think about is like, how do people cover their tracks? How do people use this without causing themselves a problem down the line?
Sure.
That worries me. People posting screenshots and, I just bought this. And then like everything's kind of like out in the open.
Right.
The government have the ability to send you a letter. We believe that you own X, going to tax you unrealized gains or whatever they come up with, some sort of scheme. You owe us this. People say like, oh yeah, well fucking come and take it then. It's really secure. It's like, okay, good luck with that.
They can take literally everything else, and put you in a little box and say, all right, well, you've still got your Bitcoin. I mean, you're in our little box.
It means nothing to them. They just put you in a box. And so that worries me. That's something we try and teach a lot. It's like, be thoughtful about how you use this stuff and be thoughtful about having different partitions of like, this is KYC stuff.
Yeah.
This is stuff that isn't, and this comes through other means. Shut your mouth down the pub, like all this kind of stuff where like one guy, like really nice guy, whatever, boomer that I know here, I talked to him about Bitcoin years ago and he was like, oh, that sounds good. Like he's a builder, deals in cash, a lot of cash, like all the time. And I was like,
sure,
this is kind of like cash. Explain it to him like that. And he was like, yeah, cool, I'll buy some. And like he made a lot of money out of it, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, because he'd bought quite a lot. He just like kept telling everyone like down the pub and all this stuff. And I'm like, no matter how many times I say, listen, mate, I'm just warning you, please don't keep telling everyone.
Right.
If you're telling them it's hundreds of thousands now, like if we 10x again, right?
Yeah.
They know that too. Just please be fucking careful. There's like a lot of desperate, crazy people.
Yes.
As the price of Bitcoin rises, it's likely to be at the same time as society is probably collapsing in a lot of areas and people are getting quite desperate.
Correct.
And then they're like, oh, that flashy cunt.
Yeah.
Go $5 wrench him. And that's just something that like we lean into like as hard as we possibly can, because it's something that I feel is kind of inevitable. If you have these crazy prices with Bitcoin, it causes major problems for the fiat currency and that legacy system. You're more of a target because you're taking more from them. You're also more of a target from everyone else around you. So it's almost like it's a double-edged sword. It's like right now we're still kind of, no one really cares that much about what we do. And we're kind of like don't worry about them. Like, yeah, they're just, let them run around, those kids, whatever. But
Yeah.
where are we in 10 years kind of thing? I don't know. I think about
Sure.
that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. That's another great reason to have a sane spending strategy too. You want to turn this into other valuable things in your life that maybe can't be stolen, or some people are like, "Well, never buy a house with my stack," and it's like, well, I guess it would depend on your size of your stack and your financial situation and picture. Like, there's also not a one size fits all too.
Having a home is valuable,
Yeah.
especially with family. It's like,
Yep.
I was saying this to my missus recently. Like, I was always like, I'll never sell. I had to sell a load because I left my fiat job
Sure.
to do this. But before that, I was like, never sell, never sell. And the more time that I have with our kids, the more time I go, no, I will sell, because they're young now. They're only going to want to, like, I'm cool now. They want to spend time with me now. They want to spend all their time with me now. And in like 10 years, I'm not going to be cool, and they're not going to want to spend time with me. They want to spend
Right.
time with their friends and their computer games and whatever they're going to do.
Yep.
And I was like, would I be better off doing that, but it's our home and we're going to be happy and build memories there and spend time together? Or are we going to be better holding for another 10 years because it might 10x again? And then
Sure.
you don't have like a quite nice home, you have a mansion and it's going to be amazing and you have a Porsche on the drive. It's like, probably not really.
Right.
I don't think so, because you have the time with the family rather than not, and you can't
Yeah.
buy that again.
Well, and it's just more time preference and fiat dream kind of mistakes, like, I don't know, man, the flashy car type thing, like, I always imagine like that would be fun as a rental, but I live in the hood. I would not be able to park a Lamborghini in my driveway. Like, that's just stupid. That's just stupid.
Yeah, you're going to get robbed like immediately.
And as much as you can love a Bitcoin, there is a more precious commodity called time, right? That's the actual one you can't get around. Michael Saylor can't cut more stock of MicroStrategies in order to purchase a bunch of time,
It's not a verifiable or known supply. Bitcoin,
right.
Time you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
You're always playing that game of like, should I have that food I really want? It's not going to be as healthy. Yeah, I could die tomorrow though. Yeah, but you might not. You might live another 60 years. You're always playing that like time preference game with everything. I can keep my investments now. I keep them for another 10 years. Yeah, but then you're going to be old. Yeah, but I might not live. It's like, it's a really tricky one.
You mentioned the kids being a factor too, and it's like, okay, I can go without for myself, and I can deprive myself, and that's fine. Like, I can go without a lot, but then my kids, like, I don't want to deprive them. That's not my time, right? That's a different person we're talking about, and that's what does their future look like if I deprive them now during their childhood, right? Like, their most crucial years. That's going to be molding whatever they become long after I'm gone. That totally changes the equation.
It's proper weird, isn't it? That, like,
it is, definitely.
the thought of like, isn't it weird? We've got these sort of like mini me creatures that listen to everything and absorb everything, and they're so smart, and like, we're in charge of them. If we fuck this up, we fuck everything up for them. It's like, it's such a weird responsibility, and that trigger that's only got stronger over time with me, which is like, I'm fine not eating just as long as they have a smile on their face.
Yeah.
If you've got to go without a meal, or you can't have things that you want or whatever, but like, they get like, I don't know, that shitty little toy that they're desperate for and it's going to make them so happy. Like, you're like, okay, just fucking have it. Like,
isn't that rough?
It's so weird.
Oh man, it's crazy. Like, I would have never bought a plastic Nintendo character, right? 10 years ago. And yet here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta love the kids, man.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. We just got our girls, so the Blueberry, who I mentioned earlier, helped us do this disco ball thing. He puts on a quarterly battle of the bands. We call this Satellite Skirmish.
Yeah.
Where we've had 6 acts perform, and you kind of like boost and zap the bands as they're performing, and then the biggest zap receiver, boost receiver is the winner of that particular skirmish. This last one we just did in January, my girls, my oldest too, they made some art. They made some paper cutout snowflakes that he turned into these kind of digital artifacts that go on the OBS video feed, and he turned them into like boost alerts basically. So when you boost in, your name goes onto one of these snowflakes. And so they had value splits in this show. So they're like earning
that's so good.
their first sats, and they've got their little wallets set up on our node now. It's super cool.
Yeah, I love
starting
that.
to roll into doing allowance through that same mechanism too. So
Do you know the trick is as well? It sounds better because, like, if you say, if you go and do this, I'm going to give you 1,000 sats.
Yeah,
it sounds like really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's nice, and it only gets better. That's the beauty of it. It only gets better. You know, when they're like grown ass adults wandering around, you're like, yeah, you know, my dad used to give me 1,000 sats a week for just doing my chores around the house. And so that's why, you know, I own a fucking island now.
Have a string of islands. Who knows? It might just be.
It would be super cool, wouldn't it?
On the one hand, I hate all the number go up stuff. On the other hand, I'm like, it's totally reasonable to assume that that is a strong possibility.
Sure.
I sit in both camps. I'm like, I don't not believe these things. I just find the way that it's talked about to be a little bit gross and disingenuous at times.
I agree, yeah. Well, people are playing it like a lottery or like a horse race or some kind of thing, like sports gambling, when really it's just that idea of value being stored. You know what I mean? Like, we only know the way where, oh yeah, when I earned and put $50 a week into a savings account for 10 years, and then I got to the end, I was like, oh fuck, there's barely anything in here. I can't use this for much. Whereas Bitcoin, like, if you've been around Bitcoin a while, you forgot about it for a couple of years. Even if you didn't put anything in it for a while, you go back and you go, oh wow, this is something I can use. This is something that's worth re-exploring here.
Yeah, and if it allows people to be a little bit more free,
yes,
that's always the best thing, that it's allowed me to step away from my fiat work, which means I can concentrate on this. I hear so many stories of people who are close to us through the show who are saying like, oh yeah, I was doing this business, so, you know, I'm managing to cut down by 50%. I don't need to, I just deal with the customers that I like. You know, I'm scaling back, I'm having more time to myself to be able to look after myself. And like, that's where I look at it and I'm like, that's really fucking cool. That makes me really happy when I hear from people that I care about, like, oh, it's unlocked some time and some freedom for me. Or like, I couldn't do this thing before, but now there's an unlock because I can pay for this surgery, or like something that we needed for the family, or whatever it is. Like, that's what it's all about.
Totally.
It could just be that way, that anyone who's in and around this for the next 10, 15, 20 years just has more options and like can be more creative. And if it does that, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That's what really freedom boils down to, is your options, you know? So the more you have, the more free you are.
Yeah. Well, listen, mate, it's quite late here. I've been on the grind for a while, so I think we can probably wrap things up. But it's been really cool getting to know you.
Likewise, man.
I love what you guys are doing with the show. I loved Lorian's little rant today that I was listening to, the pricking of the baby's foot and all that nonsense and stuff. I was listening to that and I was like, yeah, fuck. As soon as she said about, oh, I got a letter, I was like, I fucking hate letters. I know this is going to be bad.
Man.
It's like, it always
as soon as you hear go, I got a letter in the mail today, you go, oh shit.
Yeah, I was like, what's this shit gonna be then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that did make me laugh. But yeah, like, I love what you guys are doing. It's cool. It's really nice to see like husband and wife having fun and like doing this show together. That's fucking awesome. And
thanks, man. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it for sure. I love what you've got here too. I love that you know, you're always coming at it raw and honest, and you know, that I think we're kind of doing the same thing and proving that you don't really have to be some kind of a techno wizard computer science major to care about things like money and Bitcoin and the value exchange and honest information and privacy and stuff like that. Like, it's not this rocket science proposition. It really is accessible to anybody on the planet, which is a very special thing that we probably haven't had a lot of throughout human history, if any. So thanks for doing what you do too.
Well, I would suggest to anyone who's listening to this and hasn't already checked it out, go to Bowl After Bowl. We'll put a link in the show notes. Definitely go and check it out, and I'm sure we'll keep in touch, mate. It's been good getting to know you.
Awesome. Yeah, likewise, man. Happy to come back on anytime.
I really hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed hearing from Suspenser as much as I enjoyed speaking to him, you can check out the Bowl After Bowl podcast on your favourite podcasting app, ideally Podcasting 2.0. I'd also like to let everyone know that the website ungovernablemisfits.com has just been updated. Mr. Crown has been working really hard on that. So if you haven't already checked it out, go and have a look, give us some feedback, positive or negative, see if you can break it, see if you can fuck it up, if anything is not working, just let us know. We want it to be the best it can be. We also are not currently offering any clothing. We've had a bit of a glitch in terms of the actual printing and sending and everything, so we're working really hard to get that up and running properly again. We'd rather not send anything out than have problems, so give us a couple of weeks. We're on it, we're working on it. You'll be able to order again soon. Thanks for your patience. If you do want something, you can always message us and we'll put you on a waiting list. Thanks for all the support, and stay ungovernable.